Hello students, today we are going to study a very important thinker, G.W.F. Hegel. Although Hegel is not explicitly mentioned in the syllabus of PSIR, but in my opinion, he should have been mentioned clearly and explicitly in our syllabus. The reason is that when you study Karl Marx and Karl Marx dialectic materialism and historical dialectic materialism, then the dialectic process, the concept of dialectic, Hegel inspired from or borrowed from Hegel. Marx borrowed this concept in 19th century from Hegel. Hegel was of late 18th century, 1770 onwards, and early 19th century, while Marx was in 19th century. So Cant of Germany in 18th century was one generation ahead of Hegel, while Marx was one generation later to that of Hegel. Hegel is in between. So Marxian dialectic is historical dialectic materialism, while Hegelian dialectic is historical dialectic idealism. So Hegel is called philosopher of all philosophers because he combined and integrated all theories of knowledge. If you see pre-Christian period, Socrates and Plato, they say ideas are prior to matter, philosophy is prior to physics, and reality is nothing but shadow of ideas. So they give primacy to ideas. They use logic, reasoning as the method, logical method, reasoning they applied to discover the truth. So dialectic process initiated by Socrates, that is dia means two, force, anti-force, new force, thesis, antithesis, synthesis. So by that contradictions are removed and a new improvised better version emerges. In Hegelian language, being, not being are the thesis and antithesis respectively, and becoming, which is dynamic process, is synthesis. So Hegel is called philosopher of all philosophers because he partly adopted rationalist approach of Socrates and Plato. He partly also adopted Locke's approach, that is empirical observation. He partly applied romanticism, that is limitations of cold reasoning and the things like intuition, like passion, like whatever we want to do, and mysticism, that all these theories of knowledge were integrated. So he is called philosopher of all philosophers. Hegel was declared as official philosopher of Prussia. Prussia was the largest German state, and Hegel wanted German unification under strong monarch under Prussia, because he saw that other countries like England, France, Spain, Portugal, Holland, they got unified, they made progress, but Germany was divided into so many smaller states. So he favored German unification, although German unification actually took place much later, 1871 under Bismarck. So Machiavelli in 15th, 16th century favored Italian unification, which also took place in 1871 under Garibaldi and Cavour. But Machiavelli was realist in comparison. Hegel is idealist. Machiavelli favored secular integration of Italy, but Hegel favored integration of Germany. And Hegel considered state as march of God on earth. So he is considered with divine theory of state. And in divine theory of state, he claimed that state represents universal altruism, while the individual or civil society represents universal egoism. So Hegel accepted the role of individual in two ways. As a private individual, he can pursue particular interest, and as a citizen, he can pursue general interest. While Marx rejected that. Marx claimed that man cannot play double role. Man cannot rise above his particular interest to serve general interest as a citizen. So, Hegel, first, he was called philosopher of all philosophers because he integrated all systems of knowledge. He also gave philosophy of history and how history evolved. He used historical method also. He talked about universal spirit. He glorified war. He talked about world spirit. He talked about divine theory of a state. He favored German unification. He rejected international law and international peace. He says peace corrupts and everlasting peace corrupts everlastingly. So he justified war for German unification and he rejected international organization. So whenever you study Marx, whenever you study Machiavelli, whenever you study fascism, Nazism, whenever you study Arvindo, whenever you study cultural nationalism of BJP, so whenever you study Immanuel Kant, Kant only bridged between empirical approach that is based on observation and rationalist approach that based on logic and reasoning. But Hegel integrated all empirical approach, rationalist approach, romanticism, that is limitations of reasoning, and that of mysticism, that march of God on earth, universal spirit. So first concept of Hegel is dialectic. Dialectic originally developed by Socrates, but dialectic means the duality, the two forces, the two ideas, thesis, antithesis, and with the interaction, the contradictions are removed and a new force is emerging. That is called synthesis. That again leads to changes. So for Marx, class struggle was the vehicle of social and historical change through dialectic process. But for Hegel, clash of ideas leads to social and historical change through dialectic process. For Marx, material power, economic power will determining factor, but for Hegel, ideological power will be the power, determining factor. And Hegel dialectic had three principles or three pillars of dialectic. First is unity of opposites. Means you cannot understand good unless there is existence of bad. You cannot know what is wrong unless and you cannot understand what is right unless wrong exists. You cannot know what is light unless darkness is there. You cannot understand happiness unless sorrow is there. So there is unity of opposites. Last is first. That is Hegel's statement. And unity of opposites. Plato claimed that ideas were prior to matter. Marx claimed that matter was prior to ideas. But Hegel, like Aristotle, claims that they coexist. In fact, Hegel goes one step forward. Both are part of the one existence, just tip of iceberg. Like 1/10 of the ice above is just like body. Manifested part of a spirit is body. And unmanifested part of body is spirit. Visible part of the spirit is body. Invisible part of body are spirit. So both are organically linked. Unity of opposites. They appear to be opposite, but they are linked, they are connected. One cannot exist without the other. So being, not being, becoming, body and spirit and nature, they all are in dialectic process. Matter and ideas, both are organically linked. Real is rational and rational is real. And ideas are real. So what Hegel says, that whatever we see based on our experiences is rational. It has manifestation of universal spirit by the God. God manifests itself in all forms, whether it's animals, human beings, whether it's rivers, plants, nature, everywhere it is manifestation of God. Yani tum mein bhi main hu. Yani they are all integrated one. And they appear to be opposite, but they are not. One cannot exist without the other. So this is unity of opposites. Second principle of dialectic is negation of negation. negation of negation means when antithesis negates thesis, then again it is negated by synthesis. So this process of improvisation, human development and evolution goes on with the reduction of contradictions. So Hegel did not see human history or development or evolution only as bunch of events or in a timeline. No. It is based on universal spirit, manifestation of universal spirit for manifestation of highest, that is state. So for Hegel, manifestation of a state will be the end leading to end of history. Philosophy of history means there is higher ideal behind history. History is not only going in with events. It has a predetermined design based on God's will. War take place as per the divine will according to Hegel. Peace corrupts and everlasting peace corrupts everlastingly. Hegel rejected international law. Hegel favored state as march of God on earth. So philosophy of history, Oriental philosophy, Oriental history, like in Indian modern empire, limited freedom or no freedom. Then Greek Roman empires and nation states had more freedom. But German state will have universal freedom. This is evolution. And when there will be state manifested, universal spirit is manifested, then there will be end of history, highest stage of history. So that is the human development, evolution, development. So negation of negation, removal of contradictions, and every succeeding stage is better than preceding stage. This is how human evolution, human development is taking place. And finally, there will be manifestation of universal spirit. So, Hegel claimed that Prussia was having universal spirit because there were so many states. But which state was having universal spirit? That will be manifested only through war. The state which will defeat all other states and will establish central control will prove that it had world spirit. So Hitler was also claiming the same, that my German state was having world spirit, and for its manifestation after defeating all others, we will demonstrate that my German state had world spirit. So Hitler also inspired from Hegel. So negation of negation means contradictions are removed and the lower ideas are being removed. We move towards higher ideas. Like life is a lower idea. Death is universal truth. So we move towards our death. Similarly, human evolution move towards final stage, highest stage by removing contradictions, by evolving, by developing. So real is rational, rational is real, and ideas are real. So negation of negation, removal of contradiction, and quantity changes into quality and vice versa. Quantity changes into quality and vice versa. He gave example that whenever heat is given, the quality of water changes, it becomes vapor. Similarly, if there is huge quantity of vapor together condensed, they become liquid. So quantity changes into quality and vice versa. Means more quantity will be, suppose you are doing more amount of labor, quantity is given in your studies, so your quality will improve. Or your qualitative understanding is there, then quantity of learning will increase. Both are complementary. There is no separation. Hegel claimed that body and spirit, spirit and nature, they are all individual spirit, national spirit, universal spirit. They are all to be manifested as per the divine will. So three principles of dialectics. But Hegelian dialectic is dialectic idealism, while Marxian dialectic is dialectic materialism. Both used historical method. But for Marx, material forces, it was the social being which determines consciousness. But for Hegel, it was the consciousness which determines social being. Because for Marx it is historical dialectic materialism, but for Hegel it was historical dialectic idealism. And Hegel also rejected Immanuel Kant's dichotomy of phenomena and noumena. So Immanuel Kant, one generation ahead of Hegel, phenomena, whatever tangible things that take place in time and space, which are visible, which are observed, is called phenomena. The worldly things that are visible, that are tangible, that we see from our context. There are filters of knowledge according to Kant. But noumena, the sphere of God, the sphere of ideas, that exist according to Kant, but that cannot be known, God or ideas. So according to Immanuel Kant, one can understand phenomena, but one can't understand noumena. The God sphere, although man is having craving, man is having desire, man want to know, but cannot know, according to Kant. But Hegel ended this dichotomy, that our knowledge, our observation, and that method, our knowledge, all methods of knowledge to be integrated, whether it's empirical observation, whether it's reasoning, whether it's mysticism, whether it's romanticism, all theory of knowledge, ontology, the study of existence, what to study, and epistemology, that is theory of knowledge, the method of knowledge. So all system of knowledge to be integrated. Reality is of course complex, that Hegel accepted. But noumena and phenomena and noumena both can be understood. Human mind has immense capacity, and human mind is also manifestation of the universal spirit, that going also in an evolutionary developmental way. So why human cannot understand phenomena? Everything is understandable. Whatever we see around is reality, is having rationality behind it. And whatever is rational, it is real, and ideas are real. So Hegel rejected Immanuel Kant's idea that God's sphere, God design, universal spirit, they cannot be understood. Hegel claimed that the universal freedom is possible with state, which represents universal altruism. Universal altruism. While civil society or a private individual represents universal egoism. And state was march of God on earth. And Hegel glorified war. Hegel claimed that the state was march of God on earth. And Hegel also claimed organic theory of state, that individuals are just organs of the state. So they are not separate. Organs are not separate from the body. They are integrated. So Hegel did not segregate it, bifurcated. Hegel's method is integration, unity. So this is how Hegel also claimed that real freedom of man is under state, that obedience of a state. Freedom is equal to obedience. Equality is equal to discipline. So Hegel gave primacy to the state, which represents universal altruism, which is based on welfare of all, which is virtually just like general will of Rousseau. So Hegel integrated the romanticism of Rousseau, the empirical observation of Locke, the reasoning of Plato and Socrates, and all integration of knowledge was leading to our expanding knowledge and manifestation, which is a dynamic process. So Hegel believes in dynamism, and we have already seen that what was the main concern of Hegel. So whenever we do study Hegel, then it is associated with divine theory of a state. It is also there in fascism. It is also there when we compare with Immanuel Kant. It is also there when we study Karl Marx. It is because philosopher of philosophers, And philosophy of history. History has a design. History has to reach a highest destination after removing all contradictions. That will lead to end of history when state will be manifested. So, this is how we link Hegel with every other parts of our syllabus. That's it for today. Thank you.